All right, what we're going to talk about now is the final assembly before we get into the wiring of our RIoTS board. All we're going to need for this step is 2 Phillips head screwdrivers. We're going to need a number 2 and a jeweler's for our various size screws. All right. First thing we're going to work on is our mounting bracket for our DC motor. And right here on the bottom left corner, we're going to line it up. Notice that the screw holes are across from each other, diagonal. That's so that they can fit into the slots opposite each other to get a better hold. And all we're going to do is simply take one of our larger screws and slip it right through the bottom. We're going to tighten it down just until it's just barely snug, and then we're going to go ahead and do the other screw on the opposite corner. And same thing, just get it down just until it's barely snug. Now, because we didn't tighten either one of them down, we can make our finer adjustments, make sure it's straight and level how we want it, and then we'll go ahead and finally tighten it down to how we want it. Just like that. There's no need to stress it very much. You don't need to torque it down very hard, just enough so that the mounting bracket doesn't move afterwards. Then we're going to go ahead and slip our DC motor into place. It fits just like that into the groove. And we're going to use our 2 smaller screws to line up 2 opposite holes, just like so. All right. And once again, once we get the first one in there, we're just going to get it a little snug. We're not going to over tighten it. And then we'll come in with our second one on the opposite side. Tightening until it's just barely snug. Make sure that everything's where we want it. We didn't cross thread anything. And then we'll go ahead and tighten it down. Also note that these wires are going to be pre-soldered onto the motor for you, so just move those wires off to the side because we're not going to actually hook those up with anything just yet. Alright, the next piece we're going to worry about now is our H-bridge power controller, and we're going to line it right up here. There's 4 screws in the top left-hand corner. Note we are only going to hold it down with 2 screws, so I recommend using the top right and the bottom left, because they offer the most space for these for the heads of the screws to go down. Now the next and final piece that we have to actually screw down is going to be the housing assembly for our launch pad controller. So I'm going to go ahead and go over how to place the launch pad into the housing and then how to screw it down. We advise putting the launch pad in first because it is a very snug fit, and it might be a little bit more difficult to manipulate the board into the housing after you tighten it down. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our XL booster pack onto the board itself. A couple things you do need to know is that this is directional. It needs to go in correctly. Easy way to tell is that the wording and the reading should be the same direction, but you can also reference the 3-volt pin and the 3-volt arrow, as well as the ground connections as well. So we're going to line those up and it will simply slide right into place. Be very careful minding not to bend any of the pins and not to force anything in place. If it doesn't go in naturally, you probably have something wrong, so readdress it. And it should slip right into place, just like that. And as referencing the earlier video, you can see we have our jumper pin already assembled so that this board can be self-programmed. Alright, then once we have that in place, everything's nice and snug, we're going to slide it into the housing just like so. Keep in mind that if it is not flush, it will slide out. So we're going to get it in. You might have to wiggle it just a little bit, but it should slide all the way up until it is flush. And there's clips in the actual housing that you can kind of feel it go into. It'll be nice and flush, like I said. And another way to make sure that you've got it in correctly is you'll have that micro USB cable nice and accessible through its port right there. So once you've got that done, we're going to go ahead and line it up on our board It's going to be oriented this direction with the opening of the housing facing the bottom of the acrylic. And then simply just like anything else, we're going to take our Phillips head screwdriver and we're going to place in 2 Phillips screws opposite corner of each other. Should be a nice easy slide through just like so. Once I got a good start on one, I'll go ahead and get the other. Alright, just like so, our controller is mounted. Now the last 2 components that are going to go on the board, one's already here, it's our relay, and then we also have an RGB LED board. But if you notice, these will come with sticky double-sided tape adhesive already installed. So all we're going to do is we're simply going to remove the adhesive backing, and we're going to place those directly onto the acrylic. Be mindful with the relay, it's a little bit more difficult because it's already hooked up, but try to get it as parallel as possible with the base of the board just so it looks nice, just like so. And then for our final component, the RGB LED board, we want the LED, which is the large white portion here, to be facing the top of the board, and it will simply go between the AC outlet and the controller right here up top. You can give it a good firm press, and that is the physical assembly of our RIoTS board.